When I grew up, I had no idea there was a Matildas team. I knew that I wanted to play for Australia, but I didn't know what the Matildas name was. I didn't know what Matildas actually meant.
Women's football was considered a real oddity, and those of us who played were more or less considered circus freaks.
If I look at the Matildas now and how the public's receiving them, it's worth all the sacrifices that myself and all the other players have gone through.
There's been a lot in the media this week. In fact, we've even been called the darlings of sport, our Matildas, which is something to be proud of.
I've spent the last 13 years covering women's football, and no, there's never been a period like this for the Matildas. They've gone from a team that's usually been around world number 10 to now one who is really ensconced in the top 5.
Great ball in, Sam Kerr up the double. There's the backflip. Australia head over heels about this team, about this player.
I think I'd be lying if I said I thought it would be like this because, you know, growing up as a female athlete, you see things that female athletes go through.
You don't build a world-class team overnight. So this moment we're witnessing now has been 40 years in the making.
Paint your nails. Are you meant to put one coat or two?
No, 2 coats.
Is that good enough?
Perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Demand for the Matildas is insane. I think I've done more stuff this year I have done in my entire career. It's amazing how much attention and publicity we're getting.
Yeah.
Getting styled and being told what dresses to wear and hair, makeup. It's a bit different because I'm not really a girly girl. But it's a different role. It's a different role you play.
Perfect. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I'm excited just to be here. It's my first award.
Something we're all really proud of, to be role models, because I know when I was growing up, all my role models were male athletes, so it's really cool.
And the winner is the Matildas.
Lisa De Vanna is the player who has been through the hard times with the Matildas. She's become more of an elder stateswoman of the team.
We're here together to be good role models for the future, to do the things that we do, and that's play the sports that we love.
I think Lisa De Vanna's story in many ways mirrors the story of the Matildas, in that it's been one battle after another.
I grew up in Fremantle. My mum's Portuguese and my dad's Italian.
No, I'm helping him.
It was a very multicultural neighbourhood, a lot of Portuguese, Italians and Croatians.
We grew up on football, like all our families were football fanatics, I guess. They would watch all the World Cups and go to the local games.
Dom, my older brother, played football and he introduced it to me at a young age, and I would always go one-on-one with my brother, and he would never give me any favours, so I had that mentality that winning at all costs.
$5. You saved my shot. You'll be lying. When you were little, I used to shoot balls at you all the time for bloody chocolate. So for $5, try to save it.
I couldn't afford soccer boots, I always asked Santa, I want boots, I want boots.
That's out!
And that's how I knew Santa wasn't real, because he never gave me boots.
Not too bad.
I remember my mate, I remember him crapping boots, and I said, I'll give you $4 for those boots. And that's my first pair of boots. And I was like, this is the best gift ever. You could have gave me anything in the world, but those boots meant the world to me. I was a bit of a rebel. I got suspended a couple of times, and it was being in a football program that probably kept me in school at times. When I first got selected to go away with my first state competition, somebody just came up to me and just grabbed me by the shoulder, and she goes, "There's something special about you, kid."
We were there for Matildas camp, and we had a bit of a look around out at the games and saw her play, and I remember she was just so fast, so agile on the ball. Like, half the time nobody knew what she was going to do with the ball. I went up to her and I did say to her, you know, I think you'll play for the Matildas one day.
And I looked at her, I'm like thinking, who is this person? And then I can't remember, someone or my coach goes, do you know that's Cheryl Salisbury? I'm like, Cheryl who? And she goes, yeah, she plays for the Matildas. She's like one of the key players in the team. Well, I was like, I have to be in the same team with Cheryl. I'm going to be in the same team as Cheryl.
Lisa had to leave to Adelaide because there was no team in WA, so that was the only way that she could be seen by the national team.
I was only 15. I had nothing in my pocket. I had no schooling, no nothing. I just took a chance, got on that plane, and I took that journey.
She actually came and lived with me in Adelaide. Lisa demanded the best of herself, so even games that we won, sometimes Lisa would be so hard on herself because she missed a goal. There was no question in my mind that she would set the world alight at some point in her career.
So it was 2004, I got caught up. The first time I got my jersey was probably the best day of my life. When I first became Matilda, I obviously got to meet people, and they told me about their struggles and their battles, and, you know, they weren't even considered as athletes. And it was a tough shit road for them because they had nothing.
Women's football goes back much further than people think. During the First World War, the women went into the factories for the first time, and they joined the factory football teams who played against each other each weekend. It wasn't only in England where this phenomenon was occurring, it was also in Australia. In 1921 at the Gabba, there were 10,000 people watching two women's teams play.
And of course, when the men came back from the war, the women were stopped from playing. So it took another 50 years before they were actually back out on the fields and participating.
In the 1970s in Australia, women's football started to regain its feet.
They say I'm different 'cause I'm a piece of sugar cane. Sweet to the core, that's right, I got a real bone.
This was a revival that was very much initiated by women like Elaine Watson, like Heather Reid, who quite determinedly and against the odds put together a national team.
They say I'm different 'cause I eat chitlins.
And remembering this is on the back of 1975, which was International Women's Year, so women were doing it for themselves.
The national team wasn't well known when I was playing. The crowds weren't anything to write home about. I can remember my family being in the crowds and the other players' families being there, if they could make it.
My great-grandpa was a blues lover. He'd be rocking his moonshine. The baby king and Jimmy.
It was very difficult for women to be recognised as football players in those early years. It was regarded as a bit of a kick and a giggle.
And people would tell us, well, you really shouldn't be playing this game. You know, you really shouldn't be doing this.
And that's why.
One of the early stories I remember of the player who went home one night after training to have her husband cut up her boots. She kept playing, I'm pleased to say.
The latest departure is the Australian women's soccer team, comprising 16 players from New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria and Western Australia.
At that time, and for quite a long time after, players, officials all had to financially contribute for the privilege of representing their country, as well as taking time off work.
A lot of training sessions where people had to fight for space and ignore the insults that were coming over the fence. A lot of putting up with second-rate conditions, gear that didn't fit. And if you talk to any of the families and any of the players, you'll be amazed at what they did to keep their dreams alive.
I remember being at home one time and we had an international match coming up, and one of the girls called up the coach, I think, and said, look, I'm going to be a little bit late. This is for your national team. I'm going to be a little bit late. Because my shift at Woolies finishes at 5:30.
In the lead up to the Sydney Olympics, I think the team was very conscious to build its profile and somehow finished up making a nude calendar.
The grass is always green, the lights are squeaky clean. I am the new model, I am the new model.
Do you ever think you'd be a cover girl, Amy?
No, not. It's something as big as this, it's amazing.
I am the new model. The grass is always green, the lights are squeaky clean.
You know, just even if we get, you know, 1 million people in Australia know who the Matildas are, we've achieved something.
We weren't expecting the huge amount of attention that we got. There was more people then than we'd ever had sitting in a room.
The new model.
It really put the Matildas on the map. I mean, you could get in any cab in Sydney and the cabbie would have heard of the Matildas because of this calendar.
Unfortunately, and probably still today, you know, sex sells in a lot of women's sports. But it was something that we thought at the time was needed to help us on our way. But again, it didn't really transfer to what we wanted in sponsorship dollars.
The new model.
I became a Matilda 2004. We still had boys' clothes. We still played on shit fields. We still didn't get the respect. That's when I started to see a lot of these players falling apart because they couldn't afford to be a Matilda player and hold a job.
We didn't draw crowds, so we had no television, so we had no sponsors, and it needed a circuit breaker, which came in the shape of international recognised competition to start to dig us out of that hole.
Lovely ball slipped in the path of Devana, going one way then the other. Lisa Devana, what a finish! Australia equalised!
The 2007 Women's World Cup was probably a massive turning point in women's football. I think the Matildas got to a point where we had some belief in ourselves. We had Lisa Devana coming off the bench.
Yeah, I'm a bit, scoring the goals got me against the top teams, got me really shaken up a little bit. I'm still shaking. Don't know what's just happened. It's just the biggest adrenaline rush.
Only seconds remaining. Crunch time here for the Australians. Colette McCullum delivers a long ball in. Here's Lisa Devana. One way then the other, bamboozling the defence. Cuts back inside. Cheryl Salisbury. It took a deflection. It's in. She's equalised at 2-2.
finally we'd gone past the group rounds, we'd made it to a quarterfinals. We'd done something that no other, football team had done. The Socceroos had never done it.
After the 2007 Women's World Cup, there were a host of big retirements for the Matildas, including captain Cheryl Salisbury. But the team kept on building, and they decided to build with a lot of youth, and a lot of those players make up the Matildas that we have today.
She's offside. Flag down. Here's Kerr. Pumps it into the net. 1-0 Australia. Flag down.
Asian Cup 2010 was probably, it was a bit of a whirlwind. I was 15, 16.
Australia lead 1-0.
We just battled, we just stuck together, and I think that really honestly started, ticking in people's minds that we can be really up there with the greats.
Well, Kaya Simon has the Asian Cup in her hand. The 18-year-old who scored 2 winners. Can she win the Asian Cup? What a passion, and in the penalty shootout.
By the end of the 2015 Women's World Cup, there was once again an incredible sense of positivity around the team. There was a sense that this team could go further and take on the world.
Devana's in, Lisa Devana! Can't finish for Claire Simon again! And Australia take the lead over Brazil.
It was just amazing, the reception and the tension, and the world gone nuts for the Matildas. We were like, out of every country there, I think we were the most team talked about because we were just such underdogs.
The Matildas had made it through to the quarterfinals of the World Cup, something the Socceroos have never done. But whilst many Matildas were earning $21,000 a year, the Socceroos players were averaging $200,000 a year. There were murmurings of discontent over pay, but none of us saw what was coming next.
The Matildas are going on strike as the pay dispute with Football Federation Australia escalates. The women's team has pulled out of a Sydney training camp this week and is threatening to withdraw from its planned US tour.
Based on our results at the World Cup, we thought that we had done enough to finally warrant the respect from the Federation and from the outside world, I suppose, to give us a pay that we thought we deserved.
We need to have, a sense of respect from the Federation, and it's almost, they have to put their trust in us that we're going to do the country proud.
To turn down an opportunity to go to the USA and play some of the best teams in the world, that was a big call for the Matildas to make, and I think it was at the right time.
The FFA's position was that they had put a reasonable deal on the table.
They should be on that plane tomorrow, and they should have been in a position where they could be paid. To me, it's nonsense.
The only player that publicly did not strike was Lisa Devana. It was a really hard decision for Lisa to make. It was a very lonely decision.
I tried to stick to my beliefs as a player and as a person, and I copped it. It was a tough period of my life. It took a while because the girls didn't understand where I was coming from, because I still live in that past of with the Matildas that got nothing, and it's about the shirt. And I lived for that. That shirt saved my life. Being a Matilda, being a footballer has probably put me in the right path and made me the good person that I am. It wasn't because I was siding with anyone, I was just siding with my beliefs as a person.
It would have been a very tough time for her and very intimidating, and it was an intimidating time for everyone. We were doing something that no one had ever done before. Lisa just wanted to play football, and that's what she thought was right, and everyone respected that.
In the end, the Matildas negotiated a landmark deal. Under the new agreement, the Matildas are getting at least $40,000 a year. It was a deal that meant for most of them they could become full-time professionals and earn a living from the sport.
3, 2, 1. I thought we lost this opportunity, but now it's better than it could have been. And now I've got you standing by my side.
Here we go again. 3, 2, 1.
When you knew me up and more.
Get your face that way with the body.
We believe that in women's football, to be moving up to the number 1, number 2s in the world, you need to be moving forward with not only pay, but the way you act in the team and the way you're treated. We want to be champions. We just want to be, we're not asking for millions of dollars, we're just asking for the best possible chance to bring a trophy back to Australia.
Now my heart has never felt so good.
I've been in camp for a couple of days preparing for the match against China, and it's been a busy couple of days already.
Even if we come up on hard days.
Coming up against China at this stage is a really well-timed match because we've obviously got the Asian Cup coming up. We obviously want to win that. We need to qualify for the World Cup next year. Obviously, major tournaments are very, very different. So coming into these big tournaments coming up, we've got to be at another level.
Every game's important. Every game now is important. These 2 games at home, once again, in front of friends and families and supporters, we want to put on a show and show them that we're not just a one-off team.
Okay, so this is our overall analysis this year. 7 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. We can beat all these teams. Our goal is to keep improving every single day, though.
So just a reminder again to please have all bags ready for inspection, including your handbag, and your pockets empty and ready to be wanted.
And Lisa Devanna revving up her teammates, not far away from the kick-off in this one.
Lisa looks pumped. She looks happy too.
I go and watch the Matildas every chance I get. There's an enormous sense of pride. It's knowing what's going through their hearts, what's going through their minds.
I cannot remember a team with this amount of depth, this Matildas squad, so we're in for an absolute treat. The competition for starting positions has never been stronger.
It brings back a strong memory of what it's like to be one of the 11 people who walks out there on the day, wears the jersey. I think everyone who's pulled on the jersey feels like it's a bit of them is out there playing as well.
Bombing on and tees up Kerr once more.
The past struggles that the Matildas have been through really motivates the team today. We were saying how cool it was to have them watch and sort of acknowledge what we were doing now.
Ford thought it was getting away from her. She'll track it down anyway. Kerr in close proximity. Oh, Sam Kerr!
When the Matildas leave for the Asian Cup next month, I think they will feel like they finally have the support of the nation. They will want nothing less than claiming that Asian Cup trophy.
There is the full-time whistle. Australia equal their biggest ever win over China. 6 wins in a row. Full-time here. Australia 3, China 0.
It's great to know the kids know who the Matildas are. For me, after 15 years being in a team, it's still surreal to hear the girls and fans scream out my name and whoever they idolise, so it's fantastic. This team can do amazing things. It's exciting to see how dangerous some of the players we have and what's coming through to be the football team that we want to be.
actually all play soccer, and they're so inspiring. We all want to play for the Matildas one day. I want to be like Matildas!
There's still a lot of hard work, but I'm very confident that from here onwards, it's only going to get better and bigger.